I thought I would just do a quick update video. Some rules have been released, and again, to stress, this is a vacuum. We don't know everything. There are still some aspects that haven't been shared, haven't been explained to us. So it's very easy to, go down the doom route and worry about everything. There may be some valid concerns until we have everything in hand. Who knows? For this video, I just kind of wanted to share practical demonstrations of how some of the rules function, particularly with regards to charging and the fight phase, because that has caused a lot of queries and controversy online already. And again, if World Eaters still have 6-inch pile-in consolidate, whether that interacts in the same way as it does now, who knows? Whether they'll only be able to use the pile-in in the main pile-in, not the new overrun step, who knows? We shall see. But I just wanted to take this time to kind of go through all of the rules so far that are released, just as a kind of conceptual thing for people to understand how it looks. I will be using TTS because it's a lot easier than me having to set things up in front of me. So I've got some different units just to kind of use for demonstration purposes, just to show things off. So the main thing that they've kind of shared so far is hidden and obscuring. So here we have some intercessors. This is the Crucible of Battle layout. Obviously we ignore the train objective markers because they're not real. They don't exist anymore. Well, in a few months. Yeah, so there are still the 5 ruins, these 5 big ones that are considered terrain objectives. That is kind of the main thing. However, we have the way in which hidden and everything else work. So one of the main things that's going to be interesting is, so we have our intercessors start over in this corner here. They get first turn, and one of your objectives is maybe to move forward and hold one of the terrain objective pieces. Here it is. Here you move in, and great, you now are within that. You can either do maybe the action, but because they haven't shot, they are hidden. So unless a unit is within 15 inches of them, then they are not going to be able to be targetable, which is quite a big space overall. See if I can create a 15-inch circle. So even that's too big. If I pull this off, I'll be quite impressed. Okay, so either way, 15 inches from here is pretty far. So you have kind of still nearly 5 inches from the next terrain piece, which, if examples are anything to go by, most units aren't going to be able to stand within and shoot. They'll have to cross over. So they're going to have to get fairly close to actually target that unit. They haven't explained whether it lasts for a certain amount of time, or whether it is literally, if that unit doesn't shoot for the entire game, they are hidden until a unit, another unit gets within 15. So say this unit of cultists, they move up and boom, they are now within 15 of the unit. Excellent. That unit is no longer hidden. They've been exposed or shown or revealed, whatever keyword they decide to use. Don't know. We haven't been told that yet, and this is again why it's really important to think about the fact that they haven't given us all of the information. They've given us parts of the picture. So it's going to make it that doing something like maybe area denial, for example, here we have, if if that exists as a concept, if a unit has to end within 3, bump, there we go, they've moved up in their first turn, maybe they've advanced to get there, who knows. To be within 15 of that unit, the opponent has to come out of their deployment zone and put something there to be kind of an aggressor within that. So whether that reveals them for everyone or whether that just reveals it to that unit, I don't know as yet. They haven't explained kind of the impact, but it does get a bit of safety. But that's kind of the 15-inch kind of thing. So currently this unit, moving on to kind of being obscured and all that sort of side of things, the unit of intercessors within the terrain are visible because the cultists can draw line of sight. We don't know whether it works similarly with cover, because this cultist here cannot see him. Whether that means this entire unit gets cover as a result, I don't know. Hopefully that again will be something that will be revealed or clarified going forward. If the unit is behind the terrain piece, like so, then the obscuring terrain area stops the cultists from seeing the intercessors. If there is then some legionnaires hanging out over here, because this legionnaire can draw line of sight to here without it going through the terrain area, they can see each other. If the intercessors are underneath the terrain piece, which is going to be more interesting than I thought, like so, the legionnaires, or can't remember what they're called, but we're going to call them legionnaires because I can't remember. The legionnaires cannot see the unit because there is no line of sight to them, so this unit is obscured and not targetable. This unit of cultists will be able to shoot them with their bolt pistols, yay, because they are visible. They will benefit from cover, which is now -1 ballistic skill, so that obviously has an impact on the cultists, currently having a ballistic skill of 4, I believe. Yep, we'll be hitting on 5s as a result, so significantly more challenging to be hit within this terrain feature, as long as you are infantry, beasts or swarm. Now Atropos comes and hangs out here, bless him. Who we're going to say is a Chaos Atropos, fighting against the Space Wolves, who are obviously facing insurmountable odds. Because the terrain piece, not the terrain area, is obscuring view, the Atropos would gain cover against the intercessors. If he was stood here, wholly within the piece, because he is not an infantry, beast or swarm, he wouldn't gain the benefit. But if there is a terrain feature within the terrain area that is obscuring, whether it's a tree, a barricade or whatever, the Atropos will gain the benefit of cover. So it would be -1 ballistic skill to hit him here. Another one to note is towering models, such as this Atropos. They gain, as long as they are within 12 inches, such as this Atropos here is within 12 of the intercessor, they gain +1 ballistic skill for being towering. So they would be hitting the intercessors on 2s, as they have a current ballistic skill of 3, it would go to 2. Similarly, if these guys were stood up on the top of this ruin, imagining they all fit nicely, there we go, because they are within 12 of the intercessors, they would also gain the new benefit, which is plunging fire. Instead of +1 AP, it is +1 ballistic skill, so they would also be +1 to hit against this unit of intercessors. So as long as the terrain feature is 3 inches or higher, which is pretty much the standard height minimum of all GW designed ruins, like the ones kind of showcased here in this kind of TTS setup, they would gain the benefit of plunging fire. This is hugely different from 10th, sorry, where there is a 6-inch requirement, which basically meant that plunging fire kind of was null and void. The difference between the standard unit and a towering unit is this unit does not need to be within 12 to gain the benefit of plunging fire. They just need to be on a kind of point that is 3 inches or higher. So the advantage for things such as maybe sniper-based units where they have a longer range and they don't really want to move might be quite useful. Maybe literally Eldar Rangers would kind of quite like this, where they can hit on 2s pretty consistently. Whether heavy still exists in the same form, I don't know, because if you are gaining the benefit of plunging fire and heavy, you are then pretty much game-wide hitting on, at worst, 3s, majority of units hitting on 2s. So whether that stacks there, I don't know. Again, for towering units, they have to be pretty danger close to gain the benefit. The only one that doesn't care is the Knight Lancer, because their gun is only 12 inches in range, so it will be hitting on 2s, irregardless, because of the plunging fire rule. But that is kind of that side of things. We then have looking at controlling objectives. So the intercessors currently have an OC value of 2. They may still have an OC value of 2 in the future. I don't know. We shall see. Because the knight is towing in to the terrain feature, it then also applies its OC to this objective. So currently this would be a contested objective because there is an equal value of 10, because it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and just 10 flat means it's contesting. If it was a chaos one and we added one single guy here who has an OC of 1, we would end up with 11 and you would out control and take the objective. The interesting thing to note, one of the things they showed is that rather than units going to OC 0, they go to OC dash. How that interacts with things that add +1 OC, not sure. When a unit is battle shocked, being OC dash, I don't know if that means that you cannot gain any OC if you're battle shocked, and they've just kind of made that functionally army wide. Particularly that would affect things such as guards unit, who do the +1 OC to kind of circumvent being battle shocked in some regards. But I'm sure we will find out as we go along. So that is that there. The other thing that they've then shared with us yesterday was charging, which has confused a lot of people and caused, again, as I said, a lot of unsureness. So main thing to note is that rapid ingress is now 8 inches, or deep strike, or however it is being done. So it is a shorter range than previous, because it was previously 9 inches. So almost by magic, here we have these intercessors. Imagine they, for some reason, have deep strike. They've got Uriel Ventress, if he could go with this unit. So they have turned up 8.1 inches away, because you have to be outside 8 inches. Now, the big difference for charging, if for some reason these intercessors wanted to charge an Atropos, big difference for charging is now that you measure base to base. So they are 8.1 inches away, so an 8 will fail because that will not get base to base. So you now are effectively rounding up, which is a big change from current, where you are looking at getting into engagement range. So if you are 8 inches away, you're looking for a 9, effectively. So they would have to roll a 9. Here we have, let's say, this unit of cultists. They're kind of hiding here, haven't somehow been targeted during the shooting by the intercessors. Maybe the -1 hit because of cover really affected the intercessors. So you would now take your unit for the charge phase, and we'll say the intercessors are charging. Here we go. They are going to roll. their dice and missed the box entirely. They got a 5, so as we said, needing a 9 because we are rounding up from that 8.1 to 9 because it has to be the base value, and 8 will not cut it. So we will need a 9. They're not obviously going to be able to do that charge, but this guy here, cool. We are definitely a base to base would require a 4. We have rolled a 5, so I would be able to charge this unit here. So I would move in, and as per usual, you have to get kind of closer to the unit, but you only have to end within an inch. You do not have to end in base to base contact. And kind of with my 5, this guy can get to there. This guy can only get to there. This guy, with the new engagement rules, will end here, and because he is within 2, he is now actually in engagement range of that unit. And then we have the last intercessor here. Again, big change is once we've done all of the charges, hurrah, we've done. Let's imagine the Atropos has charged this unit of head takers. Whee! He succeeded. He only needed a 3, so he was more than happy to be within. He's ended his charge. You now do all of the pile-ins at the same time. So we have the intercessor unit here, going to do their pile-ins. Bonk. They're going to come right in and get as close as possible to just kind of maximise the movement. The only thing we haven't had shared is the how you have to pile in. So whether you have to end within X as a pile in. I'm going to assume you have to move closer as is currently. So all of these guys can fight because they are all within engagement range. They are all within 2 inches very easily. I would then do my head takers. They have to, all of the attacking units do their pile in first, so whoever is the active player. Now, there we go, they've piled in, and even these back guys can fight purely because even without base to base, if that is a rule, the back head takers are within 2 inches, which is the new engagement range. So, I've done my pile-ins, my opponent would then do theirs. So again, it's still a 3-inch pile-in. So they're getting in as close as they can. As close as they can. And there you go. So, unlike 10th edition, you would probably find that these ones back here wouldn't be able to fight. But with their 2-inch engagement range, they are all well within the required distance of a enemy unit, so everyone currently would be able to fight. Let's imagine we have also had this rhino's been charged. This rhino is here. This rhino has a unit of chosen within. For some reason the Space Wolf player took Canis. Canis Rex has charged, bonk, and is very much in engagement range there. This is kind of the example they give. By some sheer miracle, the intercessors kill the rhino. The chosen would then disembark. They're going to disembark outside of engagement range. So they're going to have to make sure they're outside of 2, which it makes life a lot more difficult in regards to disembarking, because 2 inches is pretty far. I have just about managed to do it there. So the rhino is destroyed. Now, Canis Rex hasn't fought. Canis Rex had done his pile in, which obviously is going to be slightly more minimal for knights than other factions. But because the intercessors have fought, and chosen have come out, Canis Rex is now allowed to do a 3-inch overrun, which effectively is a second pile-in. So Canis Rex may have got quite a bit of extra movement, and this is where the potential skill expression and other opportunities for niche interactions in the fight phase could get quite interesting for players. So Canis Rex has now piled in through the overrun. He would now be able to fight the chosen, probably kill all the chosen, high likely odds with 10 attacks at strength 10, AP 1, damage 3, or the 5 attacks. Either way, wounding on 2s it probably kills them. So he would be then done there. The cultists fight and kill an intercessor. Well done, the cultists. The Atropos and friends kill, kind of do a bit of damage to each other. 4 of them die, and there's an Atropos left. Still alive, shockingly. The thing they haven't completely explained is how consolidation works in terms of where you have to go. So there is still a consolidate. The Space Wolf player with his somehow double knights, ignore that, would get to do all of their consolidates first. And then the Chaos player would do theirs afterwards, which again, it's unclear as to whether you have to go towards the closest enemy unit or whether you can just move 3 inches to kind of steal this objective from the Space Wolf player. Is kind of unsure, but that is kind of the interaction there. The only other one is charging a fight first. Say the Atropos had the fight first rule, which is something that a Chaos detachment can give. The head takers charge. Because they've charged, they gain fight first. The active player, i.e. generally the person charging, outside of some weird pseudo spectacle of spite rules, is going to be allowed to activate first, even though the Atropos has fight first. So that's a nice change that means that you can kind of charge enemy units without being a bit sad that you've kind of got to just take the knock on the chin for charging a fight first unit. It does also mean that opponents are going to have to play a bit differently with their fight first units. The other thing that's quite big is the 8-inch ingress difference. Instead of being 9 inches, 8 inches does mean that as opposed to when people used to measure, they used to look at it being an 18-inch gap. Now you have to make sure that it is a 16-inch gap, because and even here, let's imagine these guys had deep strike, but my knights are screening out. I can still fit several models onto this objective and still be outside of the kind of traditional deep strike range, which if we then add it back in, the unit wouldn't fit in that space. So it's something that's going to be quite interesting in regards to particularly things like Melter, where it adds the Melter damage if Melter doesn't change, because you will be within that 9-inch or half range for the majority of Melter. Sad noises for Warglaves and Errants and Crusaders, because they already were if they kind of came in from reserve. But things like Obliterators, deep striking in, always being in Melter range, Sisters being able to come in Melter range is quite nasty. Eradicators may prove to have an uplift in popularity. The other thing is factions Tau have a few rules that are when you are within X distance, get +1 strength, +1 AP in a detachment. Whether that makes a huge difference, because I can't remember what the distance is off the top of my head, should be quite interesting. It will also mean that securing objectives against deep strike, where you have objectives that are 11.5 inches long, might be slightly more challenging, might require a bit more thought. The other big kind of change is engagement range being 2 inches, and also then movement. You can't end engagement. You can't end in engagement range, but you can go into engagement range. So here we have this unit here. There we go. They are now split 2 inches apart. If we had this unit of intercessors, there's one guy left, let's imagine. And if he starts 2 inches away and moves his full 6, he can actually go through and end outside. So screening is going to be a completely different concept. So that's going to be quite interesting. I hope that's helpful and just kind of gives you a little bit more how charging looks. The main thing is effectively you're kind of rolling up on charging, because if you are these head takers, they are 7.9 away. You are going to need an 8, because that is the number that would get you into the base to base. A 7 would be outside of base to base. So that is the main change. I think that's probably going to be the thing that trips people up, and just the thing to kind of be aware of going forward. But yeah, again, the closer we get to the edition, the more information we have, the more I kind of will do information sharing around kind of the rules as it goes forward. I hope that's useful, and we'll look forward to kind of hearing people's feedback and see you in the next video. Cheers.